Hey beer fans, my name's Steve Jaguar. This is a BeerNative beer review. Kind of a special one actually. I'm going to be reviewing Brewdog's OG Hazy. But what I'm doing is I've got an original Hazy Jane kind of next to me on standby because if they're going to call it OG Hazy, then I actually kind of want to do it in the context of the marketing that they're selling me. They're saying it's a bigger and bolshier Hazy Jane. They're even calling it that on their website. And I want to just kind of call them on it and just make sure that it is in fact that beer. So I've got him just next to me. I've already taken him out of the fridge. Sorry, Chewy. Oh well. He'll get over it. It's fine. So let's take a look at them. I've got a new thing too. I've got a new camera I'm using. I've got new mics. I'm changing all sorts of stuff around. And I've got a beer cam. Let's take a look at the beer cam. Okay, that was the Hazy Jane. And now the OG Hazy. Nice. Not bad, right? Now I don't have to hold it up to the camera and jump in and out, which is cool. I just gotta flick a switch and kaboom, I can flip to the beer can. Let's crack the Hazy Jane first. Now this is just a reference point. I'm not gonna review this one. Let me just make that doubly clear. We're just gonna pour that in, and maybe for you as well. Because we don't want to necessarily spend a lot of time, spend double the time on these sorts of things. But while we're pouring this out, let's review what they're saying is in this, okay? If we go by Brewdog's spec for the Hazy Jane, it's got Citra, Mosaic, Cascade, and Simcoe, and flaked oats, wheat, and pale. Right? It's the exact same ingredients as the Hello, My Name is Gail, just with a slightly higher original gravity. So it's no wonder that they're similar. Give it a little taste just to be sure. Nice natural haziness, unfiltered. We can see what it looks like, okay? Not too bad. All right, so let's just put that aside because that's our reference point. The original gravity on this is 1.053. So here's the OG Hazy. They're quite clearly using the same green, the same style of branding. It doesn't say Hazy Jane on the can, but on the website it does say that. So let's break this. I've already got a feel across my palate for what the hazy is like. Let's pour that out and give that a nose. Now, a little bit like when I reviewed the double punk, I noticed an anomaly right away. And that was a pretty big anomaly. While it looks actually remarkably similar, let me grab a nose out of the can. Very tropical out of the can. The head's already gone on poor old Hazy Jane there. Not very similar in color. Very similar. Now you might be surprised to know that the malts in the OG Hazy are Carafa Crystal Pale, which is probably the only thing that's the same, and rye. There's no oats or flaked wheat. Even though, actually, if you read the description on Brewdog's website, it actually specifically says wheat and oats and unfiltered for a hazy finish. I get the impression they just cut and pasted from the Hazy Jane description, which is, it happens, right? But in the description, we're talking about rye, which can leave a hazy finish, of course, as well as various other parts of the brewing process can result in a hazy finish, of course, being unfiltered. So I'll also notice that I don't know why it's called OG Hazy other than it has a higher original gravity. I mentioned the original gravity of the Hazy Jane was 1.053, whereas the original gravity of this is 1.065. Not a massive leap, but the percentage jumping from 5.0 to 7.2 is not necessarily reflective of the original gravity, arguably, right? So I'm expecting a slightly drier finish. The real kind of kick in the, family jewels when you're talking about this is a beefed up or amped up, let's say, Hazy Jane, is that the hop profile is totally different. It's not your Mosaic, Simcoe, Cascade, and Citra, the Beatles of IPAs. It's all German. It's Magnum, it's Hallertauer Blanc, It is Mandarina Bavaria, which is actually a child of Hallertauer Blanc and Amarillo. All of those hops provide a citrus finish and some tropical notes, but do it in a different way. There's higher alpha acid content, which is Magnum, and then the other ones, Hallertau Blanc, and of course its sibling, Mandarina Bavaria. They're lower alpha acid content, but they have higher retention of alpha or the bitterness and the flavor throughout the brewing process. And it is the Amarillo, which has a higher myrcene oil. I always struggle to say that word, which is a different way of having that citrus flavor. So it's like they've chosen 4 different hops to provide like a slightly different way of hitting the citrus flavor. It's interesting. So anyway, enough talking about it. Now you know. And everybody knows Brewdog. I'm not going to introduce them on this one, but check out any one of my other Brewdog ones I talk about their history. And it's very okay, so at a sip, it's a little bit like an orange juice. It is drier. So imagine an orange juice that isn't sweet. It's been added like I'm going to compare this to when I was younger, we used to have frozen orange juice, and it would be and then my family would water it down. It was like a can of orange juice. You put the frozen extract in. You're supposed to put 3 cans of water in, and my parents would sometimes put 4 cans of water in to make it go farther. And as a kid, you're like, you love sweetness, so you'd notice. That's what it's like. You don't get too hard of an alcohol hit, given it's 7.2. And it does have a strong citrus flavor. Definitely, it does. But it doesn't have a great mouthfeel for being a hazy. Now let me switch back to the Hazy Jane. A sip to clear the palate. You know, I think I prefer the original Hazy Jane. I think they've done an outstanding job of amping up the Hazy Jane while changing the recipe entirely. Hazy Jane, back to OG. It's nuts. It's nuts. So the Hazy Jane tasting notes, they're not actually the same. This is talking about more of a zesty lime. And that's kind of the significant difference in what they're preaching for one versus the other. I don't think I'm getting necessarily a zesty lime necessarily off this. I am getting a longer, sharper mix of lemon and orange, whereas off the previous one I had a better mouth feel. It tasted, without staring at it, more like a hazy, and I am surprised. So if someone said you could buy the OG hazy and it would cost more than the hazy, just so I could get a 7.2% version of it, I don't feel it's worth it, I think, is my answer there. Yeah, so I'm gonna score it up now. Okay, in terms of accuracy for being more than the Hazy Jane, the OG Hazy was selling me something. It's got more alcohol. Okay. Am I even enjoying that? Kind of not really. It's interesting. I think the recipe's interesting in what they've done on its own. But a little bit like the double punk, I think it's misleading. They could have just launched it as something different, some kind of hazy experience, that just allowed you to dive into the hops a bit more. All that aside, it's not accurate at all. I don't think so. It's really hard to score. I'm realizing. Okay, is it unique in what they're doing? I'm going to give it 3 standard. I don't even know how to rate it for that. So is it accurate? I'm going to give it a 2. Like, I didn't get what I wanted out of it. So I'm going to go with a 5. The can is boring. It's just playing off the others. So I'm going to go with 3 for packaging, 2 for art. So I'm at 10. And all I have left is the score. Do I really enjoy it? It's okay. I'm going to go with a 7. So that's going to get a 17 out of 30, which is going to be sub 3. Sorry, Brewdog. I'm not giving you a great score on the OG Hazy. So that's going to end up being like a 2.75 out of 5 on Untappd. So sorry about the long review. I thought it would be interesting. By the way, the idea for this review came from my beer exchange buddy Jacob, who delivers the groceries. He brought me the OG Hazy and he said, yeah, try it and compare it with Hazy Jane. That'd be really interesting. And he was right. He was right. It was bizarre to try it. I was like, I loved the idea of the hop changeover and the combinations of what they did with all the different German malts. Like, as a beer in its own, I'm questioning my score because I think if they just sold it as something totally different, I wouldn't have been comparing it. I wouldn't have been biased, but I was comparing it. I was biased. That's how people buy it. 2.75. Thanks for watching. This has been another BeerNative review. My name's Steve Giguere. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy these kind of insights. Thanks for watching. Hey beer fans, thanks for sticking around to the end. Please subscribe to the channel, click the little bell, give me a thumbs up on this video, because the more you do that, the more I'm incentivized to make amazing beer reviews and talk more about what makes beer great. Thanks.